Welcome to Disrupted Science, the occasional conversation between the authors of the upcoming book, How the Internet Disrupted Science. I'm Joy Moore, here with my co-author, Kent Anderson, and we're recording this on Wednesday, August 27th, 2025. Hey, Kent.
Hey, Joy. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm okay. I got to see the Warnings concert movie last Friday, and I'm still kind of enjoying that. So
That's great.
It was amazing.
Well, I was a little concerned if it was a letdown, then
Oh, I know. There's a
you
lot
might
at
have
stake.
to question your life choices. Yeah.
And my kids and their dates loved it too. My son, who is notoriously underwhelmed by most things, at least externally, he said it was very good. So he said they did a good job. So that was high praise.
That's awesome.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to it being after Labor Day this weekend because that's when my beach season starts.
Oh.
I haven't been to the beach all summer because they don't allow dogs on the beach. And also the beaches are full of blood-sucking horrible insects.
Oh.
So I'm looking forward to all the kids going back to school and the beaches open up so I can go to the ocean. But before that, I got a quick trip to Chicago planned next week.
Yeah, why are you going to Chicago, Joy?
I'm going to Chicago to learn about peer review.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to stopping by the Congress and seeing some folks I haven't seen in a long time, catching up and learning about all the research that's going to be presented and ideas that people have.
Yeah, we talked about this a few weeks ago, and it looks like a really good program. And then I understand we won't name them, but there are some fans of the podcast you'll even encounter there. So, yeah.
I hope so. If you're a fan, come say hi.
That's right. So,
if you're not a fan, tell me why.
Yeah, come say hi or tell us why.
I'm happy to have the conversation either way.
Right, absolutely.
I look forward to it.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're able to go. I couldn't because of scheduling conflicts, but I'm glad you can go because that'll be great. So, and then the other thing that has developed is that we actually have an approved book cover. So
we do. Yes, you may have noticed we've updated the branding on the podcast.
Yep.
On the different platforms. It's a beautiful blue and black,
yep.
Which I like. Those are in my color palette, as you can tell here, blue, black. Yeah.
There you go. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we'll put up a quick view of it. You can also see it on the geyser on the page about the book, and it'll be shown on social media here and there and everywhere. We really like it. We think it's going to pop off the shelves and look really. It's just clear, and then it's got this really neat dynamic. The more I look at it, with kind of what's going on inside the lettering, and then it kind of falling apart. And I really like that. It's like science was really going, and then it started to fall apart, and it's like, good job, graphic designer. That was really smart.
Yes, many thanks to the folks at Prometheus.
Yes,
for getting that out.
Yeah, they did a great job. All right, but we have a big topic to cover this week. It's kind of a central topic to the book, and one we've been talking about, and one that keeps cropping up. So we wanted to tackle it in a full episode and just kind of take it head on. So we're going to talk about why tech is not science and why science is not tech. All right. One of the things that triggered this thought was that Jessica Knierik, who's a great public health communicator and science communicator who's really on a hot streak and well-deserved, she does a great job, she published a post about why trust the science doesn't mean what a lot of people portray it as meaning. And it basically breaks down to that science is a process. It's not a thing. It's not a dusty old book. And as we talk about tech being not science and science not being tech, we kind of went, into our English major mode and said, well, tech is a noun and science is a verb, right?
Well, in this context,
Right.
yeah. I mean, yes. Tech, in especially in the context of how science is being attacked, which is why Jessica took the time to kind of spell out what science means. And when they say trust the science, it's creating a binary. Either you trust it or you don't.
Right.
And by using science as a verb, the process of exploring science, conducting science, the conversations between scientists is what needs to be trusted, not the thing that is a fact or is a claim,
Right,
which
right.
is what's under attack. And that tech as a noun is a thing, right?
Right. It's
That's
a
more
derivative of
closely-
science, right? That's how we got tech, was through science.
Right. And tech is a tool to create products, like any other tool that creates things. And so the tech deliverables are things that have a beginning and an end,
Right.
and that they are good or bad.
Right.
And you can judge them that way. Whereas science, as a ongoing process, is not aligned in the same way. So
Well, and
let's talk about.
Well, one way, I just want to stop on that because you made a really good point, and it goes to Jason Steinauer's point about e-history, which is history has intrinsic value and e-history has extrinsic value. And I think science has intrinsic value as a process, because whether you find what you're looking for or not, that's intrinsically valuable, the way you look at it, and the fact that you demand evidence and you test hypotheses and you try to repeat, have experimental replication and durable findings and all of that, that's intrinsically valuable as a process. But tech is products, and they're extrinsically valuable, right? There's tech that has been developed that is no longer valuable. My TRS-80 is not intrinsically valuable. It was valuable for a hot minute in 1981.
I don't know about that. Have you
Okay.
put it on eBay? Come on.
Okay, yeah, that's true, but it's still extrinsically valuable
But-
because
but
eBay
yes,
gives
it's
its
all-
value, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
I stand corrected. Yep. Nope. It's worth not a goddamn thing. Sorry.
Yep. But and then she talks about the process helps us, as to quote, helps us separate fact from opinion, causation from coincidence, and evidence from gut feelings. And I really love that causation from coincidence phrase. That's a really nice turn of phrase.
And that ties into with what a lot of the Maha folks are clinging to, or trying to embrace anecdotes as opposed to evidence, and that really appeals to the public. And I think Marty Macri is one who he's mentioned that a few times, that it's okay to listen to the people. And the experiences of a few are worth changing the rules for everybody.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then we have to talk about how publishers fit into this. And I think that's where we kind of want to walk a little bit through some of the concepts, right? So traditionally, and we talked about this in an earlier interview with Cactus, publishers should be a stabilizing force around the scientific record, not a disruptive force around it, or introducing things that are don't protect this idea of science as a process that can be trusted and is based on evidence and rigor and all of that. And it really is a process that has to be done by scientists. It's not a public process. You can have, scientists, you can have people help with observations like they have in astronomy, right? You have communities of amateur astronomers
Citizen
feeding citizen
science.
science
Yeah.
in various, but it's not a generalizable thing. It has to be managed by scientists, the data gathered by scientists, measured by scientists, validated by scientists, and all that. So even then, it goes into a scientific specialty. And I think the concern is that we're not really aligned with the process that we're supposed to be representing, right?
Right. And the stabilizing aspect of scientific publishing is related to some of the standards, and doesn't mean that they can't change, and it doesn't mean that journals don't evolve. Clearly, they do. Different types of journals, and different types of media and things like that. And one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately are article types, and how important article types are in giving that predictability. When you come to a journal, you read the aims and scope, and you read the instruction for authors, and you know that each article type means something. Is it an original investigation? Is it a review? Is it a perspective? Is it an opinion?
Right.
And those are all defined as part of the taxonomy of scientific papers. And that's one of the things that has really been completely overlooked or mutilated.
It's been abused, because we had that example of a quote unquote review article that introduced a new and not accepted by the community of oncology finding of turbo cancers, right? So it's a review article that piles up a bunch of slightly related, and when you dig into it, really suspect citations to create this scary term, turbo cancer, and it acknowledging the whole time that this is not an accepted term by oncologists, and so it's out of line with the community, but that's their radical position. But then it's a review article, which review articles don't introduce new findings.
That's what I was like, wait, what? You're reviewing, well, you're introducing a claim,
right,
which is that turbo cancers are a thing.
Right.
And you're doing that, your research is that you gathered up a bunch of papers out of the dustbin and said, this is what they mean.
Right.
And this article was in the Real Clear Journal.
That was a Freudian slip.
There's the Rear Journal. It was a what's his name, Paul Malik special. But this is coming from the McCullough camp, and they announced it last week as very exciting stuff, that it was peer reviewed,
right.
And it was peer reviewed in their journal,
right, by the people who already bought into the narrative and said, yes, go write it up, please.
Yeah. And that's what got me thinking. It was like, you can't just, I guess you can, but going back to the topic at hand is that the journals are designed to provide stability, and so that you can compare a review article. You know what a review article is. You know what original research is. And while they may vary from journal to journal, and they might evolve with new article types over time, there is a progression that you can follow.
Right.
And when you get into things, and those article types mean things to the communities that the journals are designed to serve. So getting back to tech thinking, as coming into the article publishing ecosystem, that gives us things like mega journals. Right.
Where there's no defined community. It's just article processing, putting them up, and thinking that tech solutions external to the journal, typically, like search engines or various feeds or what have you, social media, it will end up sorting those things to the proper communities, but those communities are not legitimate communities. They're tech-assembled guesses at connections, or they're search based rankings, and the articles may never be found by the actual community members because they aren't curated to that community or by that community. I mean, who knows what's in some of these journals? Someday I'll have to just spend a few hours going through one and seeing how many things are actually relevant to a certain group, because it's just, who knows, right? There's no community basis to even know.
Oh yeah, there are people who know who's in these journals, what's in these journals,
Right.
and those are the tech solutions that have been applied to monitoring this literature.
Right.
And so you can go to Dimensions, you can go to Web of Science, you can go to
Google Scholar.
Scopus
Right.
and Google Scholar, and that's who's defining what's there and what's important,
Right.
based on extrinsic activity,
Right.
of who knows what.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And it's kind of interesting too, because the other thing that's happened because of these kind of this tech approach to things is we've created these accidental credentials around journals and publication events, right? So, and I know some of the groups are actively worried about what they've stumbled into doing. So you have things like Crossref and the DOI accidentally validating a journal that, it may be predatory, or it may be validating a preprint that hasn't been peer reviewed and making it look very much like something else. So it's a tech solution creating a digital object identifier that is accidentally turned into a credentialing tool. ORCID is a tool meant to disambiguate authors, but it has turned into, through the use of a logo and through the use of and them just pushing their brand, turned into a author credentialing tool, right? And PubMed was a credentialing tool that got turned around by the technologists who ran it for a time, and now is a technology platform that retains its credentialing tool hallmarks, but they are very different from what they used to be. So, so those extrinsic things have come in via the tech pathways too.
Right, and all three of those examples are currently operating at scale.
Right.
They're driven by scale.
Yep.
And they're not designed to exclude or constrain any participation.
Right. So they're credentials that the groups don't treat like credentials, right? The outside actors treat them like credentials because they can do that and it willy-nilly. But the groups don't actually treat them like they are. They don't even acknowledge that they're credentials and say, "Oh, we better pull back and restrict these so that the credential has some meaning to various communities or players in the sciences." So,
Well, right. It's like any kind of knockoff handbag, right? You're going to look at the zipper and say, "Hey, we can make a zipper that looks just like that,"
Right.
or we'll have something there that is gonna give enough authenticity to make us look legit,
Right.
and we can skate right through.
Yep. We'll just use their logo and we'll put it on some lousy stuff, and if they catch us, and but again, the one thing about the luxury brands is that they actually enforce their branding. These people are not enforced. They have brands, right? They don't realize that they're brand managers, right? Even Cope has a brand that they aren't really managing as a brand, to say, this is an exclusive brand that only legitimate players in the scientific communication space can use, because we are aligned with the idea of science as something that does what Jessica Knurek says, separates fact from opinion, causation from coincidence, and evidence from gut feeling. We're defending that, so we have to show how aligned our brand is with that. Instead, they're aligning with this tech space and saying we're just promulgating this technology, and we're remaining ignorant of the fact that we're actually creating credentials and brands. So I think that's You know, that's an interesting twist on all of this that I think people may not appreciate, and how well it helps those who want to help to mislead people.
Right. The business of science publishing has, through marketing, brand management, external communications by some of the biggest players in the market, the business of science publishing the story has been told that this is also so closely related to the content, the science itself, that these publishers are publishing, that it's become blurred. And so the accidental co-option of a lot of the tools of science publishing to symbolize scientific quality has been the result. And so the people who are making the decisions about what these different tools and what these different symbols mean are operating on one level, and the world of science is operating on another level.
Yeah. Yeah, and the people who are coming in to kind of foul things up can operate on the tech level easily and make it look like they're operating on the science level by adopting the external, the extrinsic brand wear gear and everything else. You know, it's really science cosplay, and these people are selling the fake lightsabers and the fake, Darth Maul masks and all that kind of stuff. So, but I think that the other thing is that there's been a kind of a idea that, the other big tech idea that was imported was the idea of open, right? Open source, open this, open that, and that really came out of the tech world, and we adopted it, and it's been a problematic notion from the start, and I think it's only gotten worse because tech has gotten so big and so dominant. And Jessica Knurek says something really good about this. She said, the scientific method is at a particular disadvantage in today's media environment. Rigor doesn't translate easily in a world driven by virality and instant gratification. Today's platforms reward speed, certainty, and sensationalism, especially when something feels true or fits into someone's personal brand or ideology, which often persuades more effectively than actual evidence. And so we now find ourselves, having embraced open, now we are platformed. We've platformed science communications in a way that actually reflects a lot of the speed, scale, and sensationalism that has crept into the entire tech communication space.
Well, and she knows what she's talking about because she's a really good science communication influencer, right? Like, she's one of the top ones.
Yeah.
So she knows how to use TikTok and Instagram and all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so she's particularly fascinating because she is trying to use one to improve the other.
Right. Right.
And
yeah, and this is kind of the game, right? This is why we do a podcast, right? This is why we have the Geyser, is that there are legitimate people who are aligned with the sciences who are trying to use the same tools to remain aligned with what the goals are and what the purpose is and all of that. But it's reluctant, and we're not great at it. I mean, she's great at it. That's good for her. I wish we were that good at it, because that would be great. But, but we have to, this is the game that we're playing, right? We have to enter the tech space and play by some of those same rules. But we don't have, because we're not feeding narratives necessarily, because we're not feeding virality, it's a harder slog. I'm sure it's a harder slog for her than it is for the McCullough Foundation to get some of the lies out there that they get out there, even though she's really good at it. So,
But I think that was making me think, and also relating kind of the types of things that I talk to people about on a day-to-day basis, and when they ask me, what do you do, that there is an opportunity to, and I think a need for not public communication of science, that Jessica and Andrea Love and other people are doing so well. In addition to that, I think there is a real need for the communication of science publishing, and that's I think what you and I are doing.
Yeah.
Because when I'm talking to people who are professors, and explain, a little bit about the business models around scientific publishing that are adjacent to what they do on a day-to-day basis, it's not too hard to, say a few sentences about the pros and cons of access models,
Right.
To get their attention.
Yep. Yep. Well, and I think
there's been a one-sided narrative for the foreseeable past.
Yeah, but I think, whether the person is using technology or not, using it well or not, like Jessica uses it well, we're us. We do what we can. But I think the thing to look beyond is to look beyond the sheen and the shine and the glamour of the tech, and think about how aligned is that person with the scientific process? How aligned is that publisher with the scientific process? How aligned is that editorial approach with the scientific process? And, with validating claims before they go to the public, with treating a distinct community and aligning with a distinct community. And, one of the things we've also talked about is how, another thing that the tech world brought out, their original sin was the advertising model, right? And when we embraced open and the early years were struggling for a business model, we actually accidentally ingested the advertising model through Gold OA. And nobody, I think, really realizes that that's what it is. But why would you pay to publish a paper unless you're trying to persuade somebody of something, either a grant funder that you deserve another grant, or a tenure committee that you deserve to advance down that path, or in the case of grifters, the public, that there's a problem with vaccines and you have a different solution. Why would you pay to put something out into the scientific literature? And that's an advertising model, right?
Yeah, it's been appropriated by people who learned that they can pay to get more persuasive information out there, to persuade different audiences for different reasons. And they piggybacked on the original intent of I want to make this open to as many people as who will benefit from it.
Right. And overestimating that number by probably a couple of factors.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to read my paper. No, they don't.
well, maybe they do, but then it's like, well, did they click on it? Did they? Did they cite it? Now, did they click on it?
Right.
Did they talk about it? Did they get a lot of reposts, retweets?
Yeah. Yeah. So, but one of the things we talked about is kind of the net effect of all of this, right? So we've seen where groups like can't do systematic reviews now because the literature is so flooded with bad papers, right? They just don't trust it.
Yeah, this is really worrisome. And we talked about this, I don't know, a couple months ago. The researchers who published an article in Feb's Letters about how they were completely stymied in their attempt to do a systematic review because so many of the candidate papers were falsified. And and then other groups as well,
Yeah,
right? I think
orthopedics,
in
I think. Yeah,
orthopedics,
they
yeah.
can't do it. And I'm sure there are scientists who just are abandoning ship. I mean, these are groups coming out with statements, but I'm sure there are people who are trying to do it and they're just like, I can't do this. I'm going to move on to something else. So they're, probably a more generalized problem that these are representative of.
Yeah.
So,
And I went over to the Cochrane site to see if they had anything around AI or integrity of the literature, and they really, I didn't see anything that was kind of along this line of discussion. Although they do have a paper around the use of AI for plain language summaries.
yeah,
And
we might have to do an
it's
episode on
like,
the Cochrane group because from what I'm hearing, it's not what it used to be. So,
yeah, I hadn't spent much time at Cochrane until yesterday, so I'm very curious to see how they are managing in this environment.
yeah. So this is all kind of manifesting in a couple of ways, right? We have the NIH now with their new gold standard science priorities, which are a ruse. To me, it looks like they're just, using terms that look good on the surface, but when you actually read what they're saying, it's kind of the opposite, or it's even worse. So it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Cyber libertarian views of claims as speech, saying negative findings should be valued as much as positive findings. Okay, but what negative findings are equally hard to prove. So it can't just be, I didn't find this. It has to be, rigorously. I've participated in a whole series of negative findings being published, and it takes just as much rigor to prove a negative, it maybe even more, especially in the framing of the project.
Not to mention, and likewise, I've been in many conversations over the years for the value of null hypotheses and how that's a good resource, and I don't think anyone would argue that it's great to help somebody not waste resources on work that somebody else has already done, and that there's a lot of support for that within the open science, the broader open science movement. But there's a limited amount of resources. Somebody has to be financially invested in organizing and maintaining this information.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's to write up, to even take the time to write up a negative finding, you have to have something pretty significant, right? And if you're telling people to write up every negative finding, then you're taking time away from them pursuing positive findings. And is that opportunity cost sufficient? And they're going to do the calculus in their minds about, well, this didn't work. This reagent with this in this setting with this temperature didn't work. Okay, I'm going to try something else because I'm looking. Do I write that up and spend 3 days and then 3 weeks and 3 months going through a rigorous measurement of that, or do I move on and try a different reagent with a different temperature on my thing and see if that helps me solve the problem I'm trying to solve? To me, it looks like this is more of a opening the door for the Maha people and the grifters to come in and say, well, we have, like you said, anecdotes of injury or anecdotes of problems or anecdotes of negative consequences, and then those should be equally valued as large population-based studies that show that they're safe, right?
I guess so. They just use words so strangely, honestly.
They use everything
like
strangely.
Right. It's like negative means that it's bad, or negative means that it's not,
that it's null,
positive,
right?
That it did, or null.
Right.
And I think they're using a lot of these words interchangeably just because.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're about rhetoric, and they're about narratives, and they're about performative
and it's
science.
so,
It's not really
it's
aligned
so,
with science.
Right. And it's so squishy that they can talk their way out of it or just ignore it and never come back to it ever again,
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like, I don't know.
So, and the other thing that's not aligned with science and seems to me somewhat aligned with kind of a tech business thinking is their new foreign collaborations policy, which we were just talking about earlier today. And it makes it seem like science is a proprietary software build, right? We're going to build our science,
Yeah.
and we're going to license it, and it's going to benefit the stakeholders who are American taxpayers, and we're not going to let any of these foreign adversaries or foreign competitors have any access to our science code.
Yeah.
And let's be clear, science is a universal human endeavor to discover how nature works, and how we can make ourselves better by understanding that. And borders don't matter to science. They never have, they never should, they never help. Excuse me. And so this is about as backwards as you can get. I mean, the xenophobia of this crew is terrible, and it's awful. But the other, go ahead.
It's. I mean, this is coming after the USDA proclamation a few weeks back, where they had their own version of this.
Right.
But this one is just strange. The language was strange. And
what was the thing that you found about how it not being a foreign aid activity, that science funding isn't a international aid?
It's not NIH is not an international aid organization.
What a bunch of creeps.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
We've been giving handouts to all the starving, scientists around the world.
All the people helping us discover things, like the people from Berlin who discovered mRNA. That was a terrible. Oh, don't get me. Anyhow, the damage these people are doing is just.
It is just crazy. I mean, you've read. There's plenty of opportunities for good U.S. scientists to now go abroad, and they are. And I don't blame them. And I hope that they will see us U.S. citizens as in need of international aid when the time comes.
Exactly, because that's what's going to happen.
Please.
Again, on the bright side, we still have the specialty groups around vaccines pulling together recommendations in various states, embracing those. So hopefully that helps. One other thing we wanted to talk about is a new AI publisher gambit that wants to interpose itself between publishers and the audience, called Comet Plus. And you found this little gem.
Yeah, this is coming from our friends at Perplexity, and perplexing it is. They've been reading the memos that it's time the new internet needs new business models.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so they have come up with a payment scheme that is algorithmically generated, pie chart of money going back to publishers who participate based on, 3 different use cases for users. And it was all very, very bold, like all of these tech announcements are, right? It's like, we have the solution. Yeah. And then when I was telling you about it, you were just like, la, 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 and I kept going, go to the end, go to the end. Just keep reading. Yeah. And the last sentence is, some money will go to some people once it's free and once some people sign up.
Yeah. This is all talk.
So, announce the model coming soon.
Right.
When there is no there. And there were some really good reactions to it on LinkedIn that I want to share with the class here. Dominic Young from Axate, he's a leading thinker and businessman around copyright in the UK, and he said Revenue pools divided algorithmically are a terrible idea which fails to align incentives or create sustainable outcomes. And I think that really aligning incentives is critical.
Right. So that
And
reminds me,
sustainability is critical,
It
right?
reminds me that I read that book about Spotify, and they divide their revenues algorithmically. It's almost the same model in a sense.
Yeah, that's right.
And
I'm reading that book
it's a
too.
good book. And the interesting thing was that there's a point where she talks about an alternative model that artists had proposed, which seems mathematically it seems like compute could do it, which is if you pay $12 a month and you listen to 60% of the music you listen to is by artist A, and then the rest are divided by, then your $12 get divided among those artists. That's a good
That's
way.
called royalties.
But that's called you're spending money on the artists are getting money based on what you bought in a sense, right?
Right.
So rather than a whole pool being divided among all the artists, each artist is, if they're really popular or they're being played a lot by one listener, then maybe I only listen to one artist during that month. I'm just really hooked on Chappell Rowan. She's got a new album out and I can't put it down, right? She gets all my $12.
Right. Or this is where Patreon comes in. If you like Chapel Roan, you have a direct relationship with her on
Right.
a different platform. You don't seek her out as part of a big group
Right.
on another
Yeah.
platform.
So it was just reminded me of the Spotify model, that what they're proposing. But you had another
Yeah, and
insight.
then the CTO of the Washington Post said, "Yep, that's what publishers need: more middleman promising pot of gold at the end of the rainbow."
The other thing about their model was that they get 20% of it no matter what.
Yeah, because of their compute.
Because their
You gotta
compute is
pay for the
expensive.
compute.
Compute is expensive. And it is.
Cry me a river. I mean,
You didn't have to build it. No one really asked you for this.
who's going to pay for all this?
Yeah, well, we'll let you know when people actually adopt it and start paying us, okay?
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of interesting pushback and people kind of turning around on these things. So there was a really good post by Mike Olson, a guest post on the Scholarly Kitchen this week. And you pointed this out, and I really appreciated it because it's really, really good. He talks about how technology overlays have taken away librarians' abilities to curate their content for their communities, and while also
Exactly.
using their labor
It's this.
without compensation.
That's the spot. The libraries have gone Spotified, right?
Yep.
They are ingesting their holdings are what comes through the feeds
Right.
from the platforms.
Right. And he really appeals to what we talk about, which is let's go back to valuing the humans and the communities and the special things rather than the generic scalable things. Because to be scalable, you have to be generic to some degree. It's just the two go together. And that's where tech and science really diverge in some ways, because science is specific and tech tries to, especially in the networked era, tries to scale. There was another interesting piece you came across, which I love because it's Clay Shirky. And to watch him land here makes me
Oh,
makes me
I
giggle.
knew you would like it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're the best. But he walked people through what he had to say.
Well, yeah, this was he had an op-ed in the New York Times this morning about the use of AI in higher ed and with students, and basically the only way to really ensure that students are learning is you got to go back to the Blue Book exams. You've got to do in-person office hours, and
And this is the guy who wrote
And
"Here
that's
Comes
really
Everybody."
I know.
I know. It's all
Everybody
asynchronous.
came.
Asynchronous is the future. Asynchronous communication by
I
tribes
know.
and groups and
Well, he's helped raise this generation of people who don't know anything
I
else,
know.
you
Thanks,
know?
Clay.
And now they're all going to get cramps. Do you remember those blue book
Oh,
exams? Like,
yeah. I had a
like
callus
you're
right
there
here
for
from my pen from writing so
3 hours.
hard.
These poor children have never even learned cursive,
No.
you know? They're going to be like, you got to turn off your AI robots and you're going to have to take this pencil and this blue book and write things.
Oh, they're going to learn the Bic medium is the best. That's the best pen.
But
Medium
you know
roller.
what? I think I've been thinking about what could my TikTok side hustle be? I might do like a workout program for children who were never learned how to write longhand.
Now grasp
Little exercise, right? Not the
how to hold
like,
a pen,
not-
how to hold a pencil.
yeah, see, like in the spring, it was like the 30-day Pilates to get ready for bikini season. This is going to be like 30 days to get ready to do your final exams, you know?
Now repeat. Now repeat. Well done. Now
Stretch.
breathe. I love it. So that's great. That was really good. But I think this comes back to, aligning with science is really aligning with humans, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why tech is not science and science is not tech, because science is about getting real with discovering nature, discovering how the world works, how the universe works, how we work. And that's, you have to be community focused, specialty focused, science focused, scientist focused. And I think, tech is trying to erase all of that and, extract all of that into a system that doesn't, that they think scales, and it just doesn't scale. So I think that's a source of a lot of the tension we're seeing. And then you have the people who are trying to exploit all the accidents we've made with our credentialing systems and our business models and our philosophical approaches to scientific publishing. And that's also created part of the mess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then we have the ongoing narrative, and we're seeing a lot of research and writing about what does it mean to use AI responsibly, to license your content to AI responsibly in the scientific publishing space.
I have a quick answer. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Just don't do it. No one's making you do it. And the money is, don't be seduced by the money, because again, you're supposed to be aligned with science, not with tech.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. What a topic, huh?
All right, everyone, get ready for Labor Day.
There you go. There you go. All right, we're going to move on to discoveries of the week. We've got some good ones here. All right. So I would like you, for our discoveries of the week, to go first, because I'm curious about yours.
Oh,
if you don't
okay.
mind.
I don't mind at all. So Carl Zimmer, he also he's covered another article in PNAS. We talked about him a few weeks ago when the PNAS had that fraudulent paper article, but this one was different. This one was about a new paper in PNAS that's been published that has uncovered the genetics of the pygmy seahorses. Oh. Have you ever seen a pygmy seahorse?
I think I need to.
Yeah, well, you will. There's going to be a link in the show notes that is required. So these little seahorses have evolved over 18 million years they're basically symbiotic with the coral where they live. Mm-hmm. And they don't have horse noses. They have little piggy snouts.
What?
And they're and they're pink and they're polka dotted and they look just like the coral. And they're the cutest things ever.
Oh.
And an international collaboration of scientists
Oh,
from
no,
Germany
not one of those.
and China. They were, decided they got to the bottom of their genetics, and I won't mangle the science, but basically they can understand how they have evolved to be what they are.
That is so cool.
And they're adorable. And so of course I needed to go on YouTube because I wanted to see them. And so if you go on YouTube, there's going to be a lot of AI generated clips that have just come up in the last 24 hours since this piece came out in the New York Times, because that's how the world works. But you can look at those, but you need to watch this National Geographic clip from 17 years ago, because it shows them, and it's only a minute long, but not only are they adorable, but every morning they wake up and they do a little ballet dance.
What?
And they kiss each other good morning.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then the man gets pregnant. I don't know.
I love it. I may actually try to put the video into our YouTube version of this, because that sounds. They get up in the morning, they kiss each other good. They dance, they kiss each other good morning, and the man gets pregnant. Wow.
Well, I don't know if he gets. I don't
Not
think
at
he gets
that moment.
pregnant every day.
Yeah, no, that
but
would be something. But if
that's
there is a
part-
pregnancy, it's
yeah.
the male who carries the babies.
Yeah, but they've been able to,
That's so
through
cool.
their genetic adaptation, they've become symbiotic with the coral where they live. And of course, the sad part is that if
Right,
their
the
coral
coral's
reef
disappearing.
is under threat, then so are they. So everyone go appreciate these little piggy seahorses.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Well, I'm glad you went first, because yours is great. Mine is great too, but in just kind of a more practical way. I came across an article where it looks like scientists might have found a brew of synthetic goo that they can give to bee colonies who are under threat, and the bee colonies bounce right back. In fact, they grow by 15 times, by leaps and bounds. And so there's, how they got to that with little yeasties and little beasties and all that good stuff is all outlined. But they found it, and they have, what looks like evidence that it helps the bee colonies bounce back, which is great, because there have been problems. So that's
it's
good
like
news.
emergency rations for
It's like if you're
bee colonies.
Yeah, well, if you just want your colonies to, thrive, you feed them this stuff, and they're just like, supercharged, and they grow and grow, and on a global scale, maybe the threat of colony collapse can be addressed with science. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Who would have thought? Oh, we would have.
Just don't give any to the killer bees.
Oh, you got me going back to John Belushi now. Oh boy. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say thank you for that share. It was the bee's knees.
Oh, jeez. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our friends at Provoke the Truth for the music. And as always, let us know what you think. Joy will be at the Peer Review Congress next week in Chicago, if you happen to be there and you want to tell her anything good or bad. She's open for a talk, a conversation. And you can reach us at disruptedscience@gmail.com. And our silly sign-off of the week, we already did it with the bee's knees, but I've got one. Since I was warning inspired, and they're a Mexican rock band. Gracias. Muchas gracias. I heard that a lot during the concert.
Hasta luego, Ken.
See ya.